Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and four-time author, Tony Walker.
For as long as mankind has saved for retirement, his or her greatest fear has always been the fear of one day running out of money. And assuming you've watched this show with any regularity, you know that the way we at Tony Walker Financial help so many savers avoid running out of money is a simple, age-old, tried-and-true strategy, one that my granddad and his generation employed years ago. That's right.
Mailbox Money!
And while the fear of running out of money in retirement has been and will always be of concern to hard-working savers, as of the date of this recording, a new kid on the block has showed up, creating even more sleepless nights for savers. His name, inflation. And as gut-wrenching as rising prices at the pump and the shortage of toilet paper have become, there are other worries and concerns besides running out of money and inflation. There's the fear of another 2008 when the stock market crashed, turning most 401k plans into 201k plans. The current frustration with banks paying next to nothing in interest on your money. The issue of how this country is going to pay back trillions of dollars of debt. The reality that the Social Security system is not as secure as we thought. And here's a biggie. The realization that the taxes you and your kids are going to have to cough up on your 401k one day are going to start stockpiling higher and higher than ever before. Yet with all of these concerns I have just mentioned, there is one huge concern that tops them all, one that I do have the answer for, which is the subject of today's program as we continue our series on the many C's to a worry-free retirement. Well, welcome folks to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, retirement planning specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And today we're going to continue our series on how to be more worry-free by focusing on the main C's in retirement. But before we get started, let me introduce a production crew in our Louisville studios that begins with the letter C. Can anyone say class act? And that is America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, along with Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson, and the newest member of our production team, Miss Meek and Mild, Mary Beth Combs. Okay, last week we began a three-part series on the many C's to a worry-free retirement. So, before we focus today on C's number 3 and 4, let's review the 6 main C's we are covering during this series. The first would be clarify. Second, consider. Third, concession. Fourth, create. Number 5, control. And finally, number 6, confidence. So here's what we're going to do. When we return, I'm going to focus on the concessions you will need to make in retirement, as well as how those concessions will allow you to create a game plan that is realistic for you and one that can place you in confidence with your money. Good stuff coming your way. I'm Tony Walker. I'll be right back. With the stock market at all-time highs and our nation's debt through the roof, there's a lot of uncertainty out there. Now may be the best time to safeguard more of your 401k. Let's get started today by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Our topic is a three-part series we call the many C's to a worry-free retirement. Today's 2 C's we shall cover are concession and create. So what do I mean when I say concession? Well, Webster's defines concession as follows: the act of giving up something or doing something in order to reach an agreement. You see, folks, In working with over 15,000 savers these past 37 years, one thing I've learned is this. In order to get something in life, you usually must be willing to give up something or make an agreement with yourself as to what you are willing to do or give up to get something now or in the future. For instance, years ago, I was asked by a large financial institution to train their advisors in what I call the art of retirement planning. I would have these advisors come to our offices from all over the country as these individuals were wanting to learn how I did what I did. That is, create this process and build out an organization to specifically serve the needs of savers. Well, what I found is this. While these advisors were great people, fun to be around, well-intentioned in their desire to help people, they all wanted me to provide this magic bullet that I could just give them so that they could immediately transform their company and way of doing business to look like Tony Walker Financial. And while they tried to copy what I do, as many competitors do today, what they and many competitors in this field don't realize is how long it took to get this point in my career. There was no magic bullet, but a lot of hard work, a lot of one-on-one discussions with thousands of savers who all wanted the same thing, to worry less about money and retirement. You know, even today, this is why I continue to invest so much money back into my business with better processes and more staff, so that our clients, which could be you, will be more confident in our firm so that when, not if, I'm dead and gone, you have the assurance that the processes I have set in place for you will still be monitored and cared for by our staff. So consider these questions for yourself. What is it you really want to do with this money? What is it you want to do with the rest of your life? If you're retired or thinking about retirement, let's say you're age 60, do you have the confidence and trust in someone who can help you pull it off? What concessions will you need to consider to get the things you want out of life and your money? All of these questions are ones I can help you answer, but in order to answer them, we have to jump over to the next C, which is create. This is why we have to have a written game plan that reflects what it is you want in life. Not just a bunch of talk from a well-spoken advisor, but a written game plan specifically designed with you in mind and monitored by a company such as Tony Walker Financial that knows and understands retirement planning. If you don't have a written game plan, you're getting ready to buy an investment possibly or invest in something without a game plan. Well, all I can say is good luck. Because here's what I've found when people don't have a game plan. While they might have a really good financial product, if you don't have the written game plan to accompany that product, eventually you're going to start worrying. Okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't we see how we work and how we plan for people's money and how we can worry less about money for you? It's called the WorryFree Retirement, and it's easy to find out more about it. All you got to do is go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. And when you get there, you're going to click on the Let's Get Started button, and here's what's going to happen. That information is confidentially sent to our offices, and then we will contact you to set up a no-obligation appointment to meet and discuss your situation in detail. Or, if you'd like, you can simply call the toll-free number on your screen. Okay, I'm going to show you how to deal with inflation for someone who wants to roll over a 401k in our process for doing just that. In fact, when we come back, I'm going to talk about a workshop I conducted this past week in Elizabethtown and the questions we've got. Two really important questions about retirement and how we at Tony Walker are going to help these folks, and we can help you, deal with those concerns. I'm Tony Walker. You're watching the WorryFree Retirement. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. Who can you trust? It's one of the most important decisions you'll have to make. Question is, are you ready? Well, we're here to help at Tony Walker Financial. You know, we care more about you than we do your money, and we have over 2,000 happy clients and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau to prove it. Rolling over a 401k, confused about Social Security, maybe you're afraid of running out of money. Learn how to use and enjoy and protect your hard-earned money. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. And as we record today's program on November 10th, 2021, by the time you see this, it'll be... Aaron, there we go. Thanks, Aaron. 2022. Happy New Year, folks. And we do pray for a prosperous new year and hope everything goes well in 2022. Okay, let's get back to the show. Our Tony in the Trenches comes to us from a group of people, there they are, in attendance at an educational workshop I conducted on November 8th, just a few days ago, in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, who, following my presentation of the many C's to a worry-free retirement, had the two main questions at the very end, and here they are. Number one, the main question on the minds of all of them, who can we trust with this money? The second question, how in the world, Tony, do we offset the effects of inflation? Now, regarding the trust question, the main thing you must ask any advisor before ever handing your money over to them is this: what are your credentials? And while I can't speak for other advisors or financial entertainers on the radio or TV, I can speak to mine. In fact, to learn more about me and my credentials, you can go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. And what you're going to do there is you will click on the download section at the site, and then you put in some information. It's all confidential, but you'll get access to all of our free materials, and included in there is About Tony and my credentials page. So please check that out. Now, the second question, inflation. Let me say this. Inflation, which simply means that over time, the value of your dollar will be worth less over time, has always been with us and always will be. Take, for example, the first person to ever receive a Social Security check. This was back in the 1930s, Miss Ida Mae Fuller. Now notice something. The amount of that first check back in the 1930s, take a look at that. $24 a month. So that's right, folks. You're not seeing things. $24 a month was all old Ida Mae got from the government. Which, back in those days, though, was a lot of money and probably enough to fill up a whole grocery cart full of food. Today, the $24 won't even fill up your car's gas tank. Now, we fast forward to 1980. There's me and Granddad sitting on the porch. He received something back then called a pension, or what he called mailbox money. Now, notice, that's not a lot of money, $665 a month. But you know what? He never worried about money. I was around Granddad all the time because he had that, and he had his Social Security, and again, something he called
Mailbox Money.
So for sure, the money Granddad received in 1980 was a lot more than Ida Mae got in the 1930s, but probably didn't buy as much more than this $24 a month she got, because in 1980, as you fast forward to today, the amount of money Granddad got to live on back then would be difficult for those of you today. So this notion of inflation, again, is nothing new. The cost of goods and services has, for the most part, always gone up. Now, sure, there are times when prices will come back down, which they will, but overall, the cost of living has always gone up. I just wanted to settle that. So you say, well, Tony, that's really, that's like a Captain Obvious moment. What am I supposed to do like those folks in that workshop that asked the same question? What can I do to try to worry less about this issue of inflation? Well, let me give you some tips. The first one is to simply spend less money. Now, I know, I said it. You said, well, wait a minute, Tony, I thought you're the guy about all this spending money. Well, folks, you've got to understand, when you get into retirement, there will be certain things, especially that you have to give and take a little bit. We talked about concessions, that you might have to spend less money on. For instance, I had a couple in yesterday. They're thinking about retiring. They're going to be fine. Don't get me wrong. We've got the game plan laid out, all of that. But the one thing she commented on, she said, Tony, we used to do a lot of travel all around the world. I'm assuming we may have to curb that a little bit. And I said, well, quite frankly, you probably are. Doesn't mean you can't travel, but you might have to be just a little bit more wise with what you spend your money to travel on. Just get a little more creative. That's all we're talking about. Number two, remember, in most cases, while inflation will dog you throughout retirement, as you age, there is a very, very real possibility that over time, you're going to spend less money. Case in point, just the other day, a longtime client of mine who is over 80 years of old stopped in for a review, and I had in my mind to go to this graphic. It's called the 3 halves of life. I was talking to him and I said, well, I'll call him Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones, everything going okay? Yeah, I got this bone hurting and this hurts, my hair hurts and all this stuff. And I said, by the way, Mr. Jones, we still got a lot of money here. Do you need any more income? Your investments have done okay? Do you need some more income? And he said, Tony, I'm 80 years of age. I ain't even spending the money you're already sending me. Basically, folks, what he's talking about is something I noticed years ago called the 3 halves of life. And here's what's going to happen. I'm telling you, this happens. Most people, this is called halftime. This is the point in time, usually between 60, 70 years of age, where you should be enjoying this money. Why? Because just like the 80-year-old said, you still can. You can generally do traveling. You're in good health. You can do things with the kids and grandkids. But if you wait too long and you get into what's called the second half of life, this is why the blue represents the money you're going to have. The blue should actually go down. You should spend more here versus later because, again, like most people, my 80-year-old gentleman client, you're going to start spending less money. Okay, let's go to number 3. Another way to combat inflation is make more money on your money. Now, you got to watch this one. On the surface, to make more money on your money sounds good. And most of us have been taught that the only way to make more money on your money is what? Yeah, you got to put it at risk, which might be fine for personalities such as an investor or speculator. But again, folks, this show is dedicated to savers. We at Tony Walker Financial can show you how to make more money, more income, without putting all of this money at risk. Aaron's over at the helm doing a great job. Aaron, let's take a look at number 4. This is going to throw you off a little bit. You know, the late, great John Bogle said about 10 years ago, he said, this may be the first time in history that people are going to have to rely on spending principal, not just interest. You know, it used to be you went down to the bank and you tossed your money in the bank CD and got 7% on your $100,000. So you got $7,000 a year. You protected the principal, and if you died, you got the $100,000 to the kids. It was really simple, very easy to plan your future. But this is not Granddad's day. This is a new day, but also we go back to Granddad and what he was doing. You see, when Granddad had that pension, what he didn't realize, the beauty of that pension, which is really just an annuity, is all a pension is, he was spending both the principal and interest, which meant he had mailbox money for the rest of his life, and he would not run out of money. Again, which is what an annuity does. If you run and toss your money in the bank right now, and you're earning 1%, or you throw all your money over there in Wall Street and hope they can protect your principal and not run out of money, it's probably not going to happen. That is not a realistic way for people, especially savers, to try to grow their money. So we can show you how to spend both your principal and your interest without the fear of running out of money. Number 5, consider an inflation-protected annuity. Now, quite frankly, we've sold these annuities for years, but not paid that much attention to them. They're relatively new to the scene. Most insurance companies do not offer them. So what is an inflation-protected annuity? Well, basically, it has provisions built into the contract, which there's a possibility, it's not guaranteed, but there's a possibility that as the annuity starts growing, the income will grow as well. So that way, if you elect to take income or mailbox money, over time it possibly could grow to keep up with inflation. A really cool tool and something when we meet or discuss by phone we can talk about, an inflation-protected annuity. Number 6, my favorite, just take on the Live Well, Die Broke philosophy. Folks, if you haven't purchased this book, let me ask you to do so. You can get it at Amazon.com or any major bookseller. I think this is a game changer. This book was written on the premise of 37 years of working in the financial trenches. It was based on my life of watching my granddad and other conservative people, lower middle income people that didn't have tons of money, that had to make good with what they had. And what we're going to show you in this book, Live Well, Die Broke, is how to enjoy your money while you still can without the fear of running out of money. That's what the Live Well, Die Broke philosophy is all about. But many of you have bought into this notion that you've got to stockpile more and more money and that there's never a game plan in place to use and enjoy it. So if you're sitting there right now with no game plan, with no one you feel you can trust to handle your money, we need to talk. Again, to do so, just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and we'll get started with that. Now, real quickly, Derek is actually running the helm at the camera and says, I've got a chop here, Tony. What I'm going to do is go over to the whiteboard in the remaining time. This is really cool. So we'll go over here. And what I wanted to do very quickly, because this is coming up more and more, many of you have 401k plans, okay? You've either left your employer, maybe there's a possibility that you just got terminated. Maybe that 401k is still sitting over the employer and you've already been retired and you don't know what to do with it. Here's what I would like you to think about. Here's the question. What is your game plan? And you might say, I don't know, Tony, I guess to grow the money, protect the money, save the money. See, that's not a game plan at all. That might be a strategy, but that's not a game plan. So the game plan, what we do at Tony Walker Financial, when we roll that money over, so if you have a 401k, and by the way, these rollovers in most cases come to you at no upfront out-of-pocket cost. We work at no charge to roll over the 401ks. We get paid in one of two ways. We're either going to make commissions on the sale of the annuities that we might put that money into, or we're going to make recurring annual fees through our Charles Schwab platform. And we call this the split IRA concept. And we have got this process perfected, and it really allows people to get maximum use of their money, maximum flexibility so that they can feel like they're in more control, and we can try to deal with the effects of inflation based on our philosophy of the three halves of life. So here's how it works in a nutshell. Basically, part of that money, which will help you determine that, CS stands for Charles Schwab, will go in the Charles Schwab bucket. The rest of that money, assuming you're wanting the protection and the mailbox money, would go in the annuity. Now, how much do we put in there? Well, there's no one size fits all here. Obviously, we're not going to put all of the money in the annuity, because if we do that, we take away our flexibility and also the issues of use and control. But in fact, be careful of that. I'm seeing more and more people toss lots of money into these annuities, and if you're not careful, you're going to get stuck in the wrong annuity. So before you rush out to get an annuity, get with us, get a second opinion. We'll be happy to show you how a game plan first needs to be started, and then the annuity, the investments, everything else will fall into place. And then at that point, we simply link to your personal checking account the Charles Schwab account, so we can send you any money that you might need whenever you need it. So folks, if you don't have anything like this, if you feel like, gosh, I don't know what I'm doing, I feel scattered, I don't trust who I've got my money with, or I'm out here doing it alone and feeling like I'm going to be hopeless in the future, you've got to let us take an opportunity to walk you through the split IRA concept. It will really work for you. Again, just call the toll-free number on your screen or go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Well, what does the Bible have to say about feeling non-confident and having little hope in the future? I've got some good news coming your way, and by the way, it has nothing to do with money. Stay tuned. I'm going to get me a cup of coffee. I'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today.
Last week we discussed a parable shared by Jesus regarding a young lad who talked his father into giving the young man his share of the inheritance now rather than waiting for the father to leave it to him later. The father, who was quite wealthy and, as we will soon discover, quite generous, obliged his son's request and gave the son his portion now as requested. As the boy gobbled up his inheritance and left the family farm to see the world, he encounters what most people would encounter faced to deal with the world without a written game plan. He soon runs out of money. That's right, the huge inheritance his father gave him just a few days ago was gone. So what's a boy away from home with no money to live on to do? Well, he takes a lowly job with a local farmer feeding pigs. And after weeks of wallowing around in the slop with the pigs, luckily, the Bible says, he comes to his senses. You know what happens to the best of us? After wallowing around in the mud with pigs, we soon come to our senses and realize we need to get out of the slop. In this son's broken case, filled with pig slop, it dawned on him that the slaves back home he had just left had it better than he did. Realizing that the grass is not always greener on the other side, the young boy discovered what many of you might have discovered. As much as the world says they care about you and your money, they don't. Oh, sure, we in this financial world are happy to handle your money, but many are not so concerned with returning any of it back to you. You see, no matter how much money one might have, if you're not careful, you can still end up in the slop.
So, what is the moral to this story? Is it really about the money? Well, I don't think so. In fact, I don't think this has anything to do with whether to give your money to your kids now or wait till after you croak. What I found in the many years of working with people and studying God's Word, the one mistake we Christians tend to make is when hearing Jesus talk about money and possessions, we think he's really talking about money and possessions and what we're supposed to do with our money, but he's not. This lowly carpenter who came to earth to save mankind could care less about how much money you and I have in our 401k plan. No, the only reason I feel Jesus talks more about money than he does heaven and hell is because he knows that talking about money and possessions is the only way to get our attention. So, Tony, what is the parable? What of this wayward son? What is all this really about? Well, let's keep reading. Notice that after coming to his senses, after getting pummeled by the world who could care less about his well-being, he does the only thing any of us can do when we find ourselves living in the slop. We remember where our true home is and head back there. A home the Bible says is already prepared for us. A home not made with human hands, but a home in heaven constructed by the very God who knows us better than we know ourselves. And it may not be about the money for you. It may be something else that has carried you into the slop of the world. A unique circumstance of life, or maybe a decision you made that just didn't turn out quite the best. Could be a wayward son yourself or child. Well, regardless of why you're wallowing around in the slop of life, my prayer is that you come to your senses and realize that this old world has no hope. Man and the things of this world will not and cannot give you what you need, because what you need is hope, and that's already been given to you, not by the world, but by God. He has already prepared a place for you and I, not made with human hands, but the very hand of God, an eternal home of hope and faith that you can take to the bank. Amen? Well, Tony, you ask, what does a spoiled kid squandering his life savings have to do with me and my money? All I'm suggesting you do, friend, is this. To those of you who have a bunch of money right now, maybe as the result of receiving an inheritance, or maybe you've been saving well, or you've been riding the wave of the latest stock market surge, consider this. While you're still ahead, assuming you're a saver and more concerned about the return of your money than on it, consider returning home to a place of safety and security. Consider making some concessions in your life that will mean enjoying more of your money now versus later. Consider putting some of your money into investments that are more safe and ones that can guarantee you won't run out of money. At Tony Walker Financial, we know the mind of savers, and we have the know-how and experience to create for you a game plan that will be here now and long into retirement. So don't just sit there with no written game plan. Take advantage of speaking to me, the owner of the company, Tony Walker, about your specific situation. Best of all, there's no cost, no fee to do so. And yes, we can visit by phone or we can visit in person at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So grab that mobile device, call the number on your screen if you like, or simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com, and click on that Let's Get Started button. Well, we've sure enjoyed being with you. And next week, we're going to cover the final 2 C's of the many C's to a worry-free retirement. But you know what? Between now and then, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.